This is AF Cast, the video game podcast. And here's your host, Malcolm Sheaver.
Being a hero is every kid's dream. Now, whether you're a kid or not, you're able to play any of the Avengers. This week on AF Cast, if it wasn't obvious enough, we are reviewing the new Marvel's Avengers video game. Alright, so welcome to the final day, so day 4 of the 4-day special. Today we're talking about Marvel's Avengers, and I'm going to start us off with the story. So you start off the story as Kamala Khan going to an Avengers convention. You get to meet many of the heroes that are part of the Avengers Initiative, but things go awry when the Golden Gate Bridge, because you're in San Francisco, starts to blow up. And I'm not even kidding you there. Further investigation led the Avengers to a massive attack on San Francisco. Meanwhile, the new Terrigen core that was created to power the new helicarrier started to go haywire. And they tried to shut it down, everything. All in all, the Avengers failed in protecting many citizens, and many were either dead or put into Terrigen crystals, where they would hibernate, and eventually they would be born with special powers. So this is essentially the Inhumans storyline. So 5 years later, you learn that Inhumans that were born from these Terrigen crystals, and they are actually being hunted by AIM. So it also has the AIM storyline in this. A company that was started by a scientist who is working on the Terrigen reactor and survived the incident, who is known as George Tarleton. For those who are Marvel fans, you probably know who that is already. I was a Marvel fan and I didn't know who it was, but now I do. But the Avengers are now seen as public enemy number 1 and are now living by themselves without trying to build their name up once more. Meanwhile, Kamala is trying to find the resistance of the Inhumans, that is, with newfound abilities from her being in Terrigenesis. She's a polymorph, so she's able to essentially stretch and make her hands bigger if she wants to. I don't know. Kind of weird power, but it works. She ends up finding the crashed helicarrier. That's where her investigation leads. That was using the Terrigen core. It's called the Chimera. And she finds Bruce Banner. Well, she finds the Hulk, but eventually he calms down and turns into Bruce Banner. They have a conversation. She found some video footage of Tarleton basically locking Captain America in with the core, without any audio or additional footage or anything like that. So there's been some conspiracy. Then you start to try to find like Tony Stark, and then you basically just slowly build up the Avengers once again to take on the AIM threat. So the story for this game is great. It was really well put together, and I like the combination of AIM and Terrigenesis / Inhumans. Not to mention they found good actors to play the characters for this game, and overall felt like you were playing in a Marvel comic or even movie. So now that I'm done talking about the story, we're now moving on to gameplay. You have the ability to play Kamala Khan, or Miss Marvel, as she's known, Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, Thor, and Black Widow throughout the story. It also looks like Hawkeye will be in the game in the future to join in the Avengers Initiative, which is the basically the thing that takes place after the campaign, where it's basically just a second campaign for the game, but I'm not going to get into it since it is supposed to take place after the campaign stories. But yeah, each hero has 3 specialties, a support heroic ability, an assault heroic ability, and an ultimate heroic ability. You get these by fighting enemies, and then you can use them to unleash something powerful. Well, sort of powerful. The fighting in the game is very underwhelming as a hero. It doesn't feel like you're playing as a superhero. You have low health, and you don't do much damage against even the smallest of grunts. For example, the Hulk, he is terrible to play in my opinion. He should be this massive tank of a character dealing large amounts of damage and taking in a large amount of damage with limited abilities. Instead, he doesn't do much damage. He is a huge target that can die fairly easily, even on easier difficulties. And he has a variety of abilities that still don't do much damage at all. He's like a giant piñata in the game. The only person that it makes sense that they can't take much damage is Black Widow. She doesn't have an expensive suit of armor, super soldier serum, gamma radiation, and human abilities, and certainly isn't a god. So she's the only person that makes sense. She has low health, but she should still be dealing a lot of damage. And everyone else really shouldn't be taking as much damage as they are, especially when in cinematics, those same heroes would take much more fire or do a lot more damage than when you were playing as that very hero by a mile. And it's really irritating playing them then. But I will say that this is the first game that I actually like having a co-op multiplayer. You can just choose to play with AIs that will take form as other heroes, but you can actually have other people playing other heroes in your missions. The queues take a while, and I almost never got a full 4-person strike team. So you always got like a couple AIs with a couple players, but either way, it was fun. You also have the ability to actually build up your gear and skills. So there is essentially a power system in this game, similar to the Division games, Destiny games, and Ghost Recon Breakpoint, where you have a total like gear score level or light level as it was considered in those other games. It's created based off of your gear and abilities. In this game, it's just based off of your gear. So you can actually find materials to upgrade your gear, or you can even just find new gear in general, because you can only upgrade your gear to a certain extent. And the gear in this game doesn't help too much, but it does increase your power level and give you some abilities and resistances that are helpful. There's also a massive skill tree that allows you to upgrade yourself as you level up each individual hero. So each individual hero has its own separate skill tree along with their own separate upgrade system. So some of your heroes might be level 3, while some of your heroes might be level 15. It depends on how much you play those heroes. But you are able to upgrade your primary attacks. For instance, you can upgrade Iron Man, so he has lasers and rockets along with repulsors that you start off with. And each time you level up, you get a point, and so basically you can just spend a ton of points as you level up and upgrade your skills by far. There is actually a second page as well for the skill tree, which include the specialties. So you're able to upgrade your different heroic abilities along with your defense capabilities, because each hero has defense capabilities for them, so that way you don't get murdered. And then on the third page, I told you this was a massive skill tree, you have mastery upgrades. So there are 4 categories here. You have combat, you have ranged, you have intrinsic ability, and utility. Real quick, I'll tell you what intrinsic ability is. Essentially, there's a bar below your health bar that you can slowly gain as you, not even slowly, you actually quickly gain this as you're hitting enemies with your base primary attacks. And then each of these will essentially, or like each character uses their intrinsic ability in different ways. So like the Hulk uses it to do more damage. Iron Man uses it to fire his repulsors, lasers, or rockets, depending on which one you're using. Yeah, various things like that. And so upgrading your intrinsic ability can be very helpful. So yeah. Anyway, in each of those 4 categories, you will choose one of 3 lanes. You can switch between those other lanes at any time, but you can only have one at a time active. And so you can keep switching those out. You can keep upgrading them, see what works best for you. And that's essentially how you build your character. Either way, the gameplay is really fun. I preferred to play it on the easiest difficulty just because I felt the most like a hero, essentially. And it was especially versus when I was playing on hard or even normal difficulty. It was difficult playing the game, or just annoying playing the game even. And I'd recommend you do the same if you want to feel like a badass superhero. But if you do want a challenge, I can understand you wanting to play on the harder difficulties. But for me, in this game, I was looking to play as an Avenger, not as someone who would take one shot to the head and die, like it is for like Call of Duty games or Halo games, where you are this foot soldier that isn't like a god or or this giant Hulk of a creature. So yeah. Anyway, there are also factions within the game that allow you to complete daily challenges and buy items from a special vendor. There's only 2 that I know so far, which is Shield, and then you can also go to the to this ant hill, which is actually where Ant-Man is. He apparently, actually, I'll just let you guys figure out that on your own. You don't get to play as Ant-Man. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry to tell you this. But essentially, this doesn't do much rather than give you something to do, and you also gain the ability to buy new and improved equipment. And these vendors actually do give you some pretty good stuff as long as you can upgrade those factions. You can actually get them up to level 50 total, and you will get the best loot at that point. I mean, obviously, but yeah. You also have challenge cards per hero. These challenge cards refresh daily and weekly, allowing you to come back and upgrade your character to gain materials, nameplates, outfits, and even special takedowns. For those like me who like to achievement hunt, there are also collectibles in the game. You have normal collectibles that give you inside lore in the game. You also have codex entries that allows you to read up on the different enemies that you have defeated. And last but not least, you also have comic books, which are actually interesting because these comic books will actually give you a small stat bonus in the game. It is really small, so it's not like too worth it to go after these comic books, but it does help in some way. There is some quality of life stuff I want to talk about real quick as well. There were a lot of visual and sound glitches in the game. There were repeated sounds, distorted or robotic voices. For visuals, it looked like there was flashing lights in some rooms without any shadows, which made it even weirder. Sometimes stuff just straight up didn't render in cutscenes. During one cutscene, Kamala was just sitting on nothing. Another one, I didn't realize the Quinjet was flying through a city until it suddenly popped in. Not only that, but sometimes your character model just starts shaking uncontrollably. Like, it doesn't really affect you in the game, but it's just really strange if you're standing there and suddenly Iron Man's armor looks like it's about to, like, over-energize and just pop off your body. It's really strange. But there were some good things, too. The areas they built in the game were really well designed for each hero to move around in and use to their advantage. Not to mention, they did build it similarly to how AIM does in like the comics and stuff like that, where they have the typical beekeeper with all of the like beehive looking like hexagon stuff everywhere. It was really cool map design. But there is another bad thing that I probably should have mentioned earlier, is that you can get stun locked and die from full health without having a chance to fight back. This has happened to me multiple times, but one time in particular, as Iron Man, I hadn't been hit yet at all, and I had been fighting for a while, because this is like the final area. And I decided to do a ground slam, and for some reason, I didn't stun this one bot as I hit the ground, that then stunned me. And then something else stunned me. Meanwhile, at least 5 enemies are laying into me, and I died nearly instantly because of the low health in the game, which was the most infuriating thing. And this is, like I said, this has happened to me a few times where I've just been stun locked and die instantly. It's not fun, it's very annoying, and they really shouldn't have that where you get stun locked like that, especially since there are times where you will punch something that should get knocked back when you hit it, like you do, and it just keeps fighting you, and it doesn't interrupt its attack like you will. Like, sometimes you'll do a ground slam as the Hulk, and something will punch you the second that you hit the ground, so it cancels your ground slam. Like, how does that make any sense whatsoever? So it's frustrating. So I am giving this game an overall 4 out of 10. A lot of it is because of that. Because as a superhero, you really shouldn't have to dodge or defend as much as you have to in this game. I mean, it makes sense because Iron Man would dodge and defend in comic books or in movies or anything like that. Same thing with actually the Hulk wouldn't, but same thing with like Thor, Black Widow, and like I said, Black Widow makes sense because she isn't that strong of a person. Like, if she gets hit, then she's going to react as any normal person would without any body armor. But you really shouldn't take that much damage because you've seen in comic books and in movies, they get hit by something powerful and they'll flinch. But in this game, you'll just get knocked down, you'll get stun locked, and you'll just die. So you really shouldn't get punished so harshly if you don't dodge or block. It's terrible. And you can lose half of your health in an instant or get stun locked out of your mind. It's really just, it's bad. But not to mention, the game's sound and visuals glitch consistently, making it annoying to watch cutscenes or listen to someone over comms. Like, Black Widow was one time talking to me over comms, and it sounded like there was some robot that had taken over her or something like that. It was hard to listen to. It sounded like grinding metal. But besides that, when I was playing on easy, I was having a really fun time in the game, and I really enjoyed the story arc of the game. So if you want to challenge in this game and choose harder difficulties, good luck. But either way, once I figured out how I wanted to play, I had a lot of fun. I don't think the game was designed well, but it was still fun kicking butt as an Avenger. But besides all of that, game on, guys.
Find AFcast on Instagram and Twitter, @AFCommunity, for any updates on future podcast episodes. If you want to join the community Discord, find the link in the description or on the website, afcommunity.com.